Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to the Conscious Evolution Podcast. I am Dr. Andrea Pennington, founder of Innate Vitality and the curator of the Psychedelic Curious Journal. I think you're going to enjoy today's conversation with Sky Ra. He is a psilocybin cultivator and a cosmic consultant who has been working with the medicine for 6 years with the Black community. He's also an author, a filmmaker, a photographer, and a self-development facilitator who has also been working with middle schools and high schools around LA County to help people understand the concept of self. I highly recommend that you dig into this episode and check out his book, What Is I? I think you're going to learn a lot and probably laugh a lot. Enjoy the conversation. It's time to upgrade your life. Welcome to the Conscious Evolution Podcast. I'm Dr. Andrea Pennington, Chief Psychedelic Officer for Innate Vitality. In this podcast and our live events and retreats, we explore ways to hack enlightenment by integrating ancient wisdom and modern neuroscience with transpersonal psychology. From plant medicine and psychedelics to breathwork, mindfulness, and neurofeedback, my guests and I will shine a light on the unique capacity that we have to use our conscious mind to evolve individually and collectively as a species. Tune in each week on your favorite podcast player or the Pennington Media YouTube channel for interviews and discussions about holistic healing of trauma and adverse childhood experiences, burnout recovery, and intentional wellness. Thank you so much for joining me for this Conscious Evolution podcast. Welcome.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. This is a blessing. I already know this is going to be an amazing conversation.
Well, I've been buzzing about it all day, like thinking about how far we can go down the rabbit hole because
as far as the rabbit takes us.
Okay, well, that's dangerous. Well, it's early morning for you. It's evening over here in the south of France. So I'm fired up. I'm ready to go. I would love it if you can tell my audience, who's probably never heard of you. I've been kind of fangirling and binging on the internet, seeing where you've presented and how you've shared. But Why don't you tell us a little bit about how you even got involved in growing shrooms and helping in the education space around psychedelics?
Growing up in Baltimore, Maryland, there isn't a lot of accessibility to this sort of medicine. So I had my trip there, opened my mind, and then eventually I moved out to LA. Now, while I'm in LA, I'm thinking about the fact that, people don't have access to this, and I want to provide that access. I know who has it. I know how to do it. It began with me kind of like being able to have it and give it to people. But I'm like, okay, well, I think that basically Source called me and just told me that I'm supposed to be growing this because my energy is very, let's use the word thick. My energy is thick. and so having my energy and my intellect into this medicine, I felt like was really important. Knowing that Black people don't have access to it, but also simultaneously seeing that we need healing. Yeah. So I'm getting my healing experiences, but my homies are still saying, oh, that's what some white people should, da-da-da-da. So I just, and that's even why I have this film that I'm working on right now. But the point is right now for me and my existence is to change the narrative around psychedelics for our community. And outside of that, that's pretty much how I got into growing. But how I became myself.
Do you mind telling us about that first trip? So you're saying you had a trip and that shifted things.
Yeah.
When how did you even get introduced to mushrooms? Because I'll be honest, like I grew up in Denver. I heard of people doing shrooms, but I didn't see Black people doing shrooms.
Yeah.
So I didn't try magic mushrooms until 2019.
Oh, okay. And I mean, that's not too far from when I tried, but I tried in, I think it was 2014. And basically I knew someone and it was a woman. She had them and she took them. So I remember being in the car with her and she was just looking weird, looking strange. And this is where it was cold for me when she said this. I said, how do you feel? Like, what's going on? And you know what she said? She said, I'll tell you when it's over. I was like, oh, Okay. Because that said to me, this experience is so deep for you that you can't even express outwardly to me right now. That really intrigued me. And so my first time, I knew someone in Baltimore, and he got him to me. And I remember I met a woman the night before, and I got her number. Now, I kind of knew of her, but I didn't really know her too much. Now, in Baltimore, as a young guy, you get a girl's number. You don't call immediately. You know, you wait 2-3 days, create some space, some ego stuff. But I did the mushrooms, and I remember, like, first I'm looking at my computer screen and it's looking like all 3D-ish, and my cat was just purring, and it's like, so my reality was sort of enhanced. And I had a thought, I should call that woman that I got her number yesterday. And I'm like, really? You gonna call her? Like, you just got it yesterday. But I said, no, what? It's fine. I'll just call her. And when I called her, I told her, and I'm like, hey, and she's like, oh, hey, is it Sky? I'm like, yeah, Sky. And she's like, you're calling pretty early. And I'm like, yeah, it's cool. And I told her I was on mushrooms, and she really wanted to listen to me. So this experience was profound because it broke down, or maybe it introduced the feminine aspect of me. Emotions, wanted to get to know someone, if we want to define this as feminine, but just that aspect of caring and nurturing. I talked to this woman for 3 hours, and it really broke down a wall for me. So that wall being broken down for me was really important. Black men in inner cities need their walls broken down. Their mental and emotional walls broken down. It showed me who I was. Truly, I'm actually the person who would just call you. I'm actually the person who would just check in and see how you're doing. I didn't even want anything from her. It was just a good conversation. And then even that, not wanting anything from her, that was huge for me to experience at 23, 24, so that was that first experience. And it definitely drove me on a journey of love, not wanting, women to feel the way I make them feel in the past. The healing aspects started to arrive for me. When before I had no outlet for healing. I guess I heard of therapy, but there was no drive. I had no thoughts like, oh, maybe I should heal myself. Maybe I should work on myself. Maybe I should be a better man for the next woman that I'm with. None of those thoughts occurred until I did mushrooms.
Wow. Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. Thank you for sharing. That's awesome that you could see and experience this feminine side, but also recognizing, like, this is just liberating who I really am, like the qualities without the game playing, without the ego checking. It's like, no, this is just what I want to do. I want to express, I want to connect.
Yeah. And I think we all want to do that, but we have traumas, I feel, that put blinders on us. And then these blinders become us. So now we don't even know who we are. We're just walking around looking and feeling and tasting like our trauma.
Yeah.
And again, the psychedelics, or the mushroom specifically, sort of like just removes that veil, and it allows you to see it, so you can decide if you want to change. You can decide if you want to be who you truly are, or if you want to continue to be the game that you've been playing, or the trauma that has been inflicted on you.
It's interesting you say it like that, because for me, it wasn't a choice. Like, once the shrooms took me on a visual journey, and I saw how I got infected with this darkness from my mother and her unhealed wounds. And I saw how that impacted me through my childhood and adulthood. I came out of it with so much compassion for myself that I'm like, oh, I don't have to live that way anymore. I saw where that mask or that fake part got put in, where I became this perfectionist and a people pleaser and all of that. And it was like, oh, I don't have to do that, because that's not who I really am. So for me, it wasn't like a choice. It's just like, that's just not me.
And I think it wasn't a choice because you were ready to change. And I think that when people aren't ready to change, that's where we get a bad trip, where it's trying to show you what's going on. You're not ready to change that. You don't want to see that. Now it's turmoil. Now you want it to be over. And sometimes those people don't actually, engage in that change that the mushrooms were trying to show them. They just kind of go back to what they were, and they just see that as it was a cool experience, and that was it. So it's like, I honestly, in a way, I mean, even that experience was needed for that person, but I do feel that psychedelics finds you more so, because it's a relationship. This entity is engaging with you to help you to evolve. So it's like you have to be at a certain frequency to have that kind of experience. So I guess we find each other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So tell me about your work then. You're working in the BIPOC community around education, and I've heard you say before, like, people need access, and one of the best or safest ways might actually be to grow your own. But what are you doing within BIPOC communities?
Well, I would say the biggest thing outside of, I used to do consults. So people would just call me and just tell me about their experiences, and I'm helping them with that, which is super important. People might look down on it and be, oh, it's a phone call is a big thing. But I would say outside of that, I'm working on a film. And this film is centered around Blacks and psychedelics. We don't have any films around Blacks and psychedelics. It's pretty much unheard of. Yeah. And the point of this film is to not only show people that, psychedelics or mushrooms is accessible, but it's needed. Pretty much, I would borderline say it's needed, because if you look at the landscape of our pharmaceuticals and medicine, none of that is actually working, clearly, because it's not working. And so we need an actual solution. And I'm seeing how, the mushrooms is helping, me, myself, other people. So this has to be it. And I'm going on record and saying it has to be. Like, okay. I'm not, obviously, you don't need it. It's not a necessity. But if you are a person who needs healing, and you have some brown in your skin, what this does is it removes anything that is blocking you. And that's the point. That's why you're in the situations you're in, because there's a blockage. And it just allows you to see clearly. So with this film, I want it to be so plain, so digestible. I have my connects with Netflix and other outlets like that. So I feel like that's going to be one of my biggest contributions to the Black community and psychedelics, is creating, because film is the most popular form of information right now. So to be able to put this and wrap this story up in a creative way in a film for them to see and enjoy, I feel like it would change the game.
Yes.
It's a chess move. That's what I call it. I'm here playing a really big game. I see the game being played. I see what the opposition is doing, and this is my move.
Amen. Oh, I am cheering you on, especially because today, as we are recording this is day 2 of the Cannes Film Festival. And you're right. Film is a great medium for education, for edutainment. And here, yesterday, the opening ceremony of the Cannes Film Festival, it was opened by the president of Ukraine, who is a former actor. And so,
okay, I did hear that. Yeah.
Like, film is such a beautiful medium. And yeah, we have that in common. I'm working on a film about resilience, and I wasn't really going to include my psychedelic stuff until a couple of the people in my film really expressed how much healing they got out of ayahuasca, ketamine, other things. So I'm so with you. Now, I want to touch back on something, because we talk about the game. And we could be talking about this game of psychedelics going mainstream, which is a very whitewashed capitalist game. But I know that you also are talking about, we as humans, we are all playing a game. There is a cosmic game going on. So speak on that.
Dang, what is the best way to speak on that? So I wrote a book.
Yeah,
I wrote a book, and it is called What Is I? And you can look that up on Amazon right now. It's written by Skyra and Atlas. And this book is an investigative book, and it brings you to the realization that you are I. So, when someone asks you, what is your name? You say, I am Andrea. So then I would ask, well, who is I? Who is the I that's saying that she's Andrea? There's a being there, right? And so that being, I'm trying to think about the simplest way to do this, because it's like, I want people to know that we're playing a game, but it's more about at what level. So if you know that you have a soul, this soul is here to do something, and these other souls out here are doing things, are the government, them, they, they're playing a game. And right now I'm trying to figure out how to convey that it's a game. Because people take life so seriously.
Well,
that's the problem. And so, you know what?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I would say the first thing that helps you see that this is a game is psychedelics.
Yeah.
When you're on them, it breaks down the fabric of reality, and not drastically, but you begin to see that everything is energy modulating, everything is energy moving. And this energy moving is doing things, it's creating things. We are all one creator sparked out into different bodies doing things. And so it's like, what are you here to do? We're all here doing things. Some people choose to work, some people choose to act, some people choose to have podcasts. I see that damage is being done to certain people on this planet, and I'm making moves to fix that. And I'm seeing that, okay, politics isn't the way, because that has never worked. So it's like I'm sitting here using my intellect of the landscape to make moves or decisions to affect the evolution of the planet. And I guess also everybody's not here to do that. Everybody's not here to understand that is even the game.
Yeah.
We have background characters, so honestly, this game thing we're talking about is a frequency. And if you tap into it, you understand exactly what I'm saying.
I feel you. I feel you 100%. I feel like also we as souls in this game of life on Earth as a human, we're all on this heroic journey of waking up. And some people are at different levels of their awakening, and they may not get there in this lifetime. They may have to come back multiple lifetimes.
Yes.
But what you just described is exactly what I experienced in my first 5-gram trip with psilocybin, the heroic dose, 5 grams in Iceland with a beautiful medicine woman and one of my best friends, Dr. Jill. What's up, Jill? And what was interesting is what you described. When I went into this journey, the first 2.5 hours, I was cracking up laughing, like a deep belly laugh, because I was like, oh, it's nothing but stories. And I kept saying it over and over, and I would crack up laughing. And thankfully, Jill wasn't disturbed, but I was cracking up, tears. My gut was in just knots. I was like, it's all stories. It's nothing but stories. It's nothing. And I would see like an unfolding of a scene, and I'm like, oh, it's just that we have all these stories and that make meaning. And then when I finally got to the point of complete ego dissolution, what you described about that energy, I just melted into this oneness of energy. And I just saw all of these like kaleidoscopic images, and I saw different planets. And I was like, we're all this energy, this light, this flow. And we come in, we do stuff, we come out, and everyone's just on their journey. It's not even personal. It's like,
it's never personal. If you could know that there's just one being playing out different characters like a stage play, and that one being is Joe walking down the street. The one being is the dog, it's the wind, it's the trees blowing, it's all. And you're, like you said, we're just here to play our role. We're here to play. What is your story? What do you create? Like because I feel like everybody says when they're on their deathbed, they look back and they want to know that they lived a good life, right? What they're really saying is they want a good story. They want a good story at the end. So where it's like, man, that was the shit. I did that, and but honestly, that's all it's about. One of my favorite movies is called Mr. Nobody. And he lives a life where he understands that he has different selves. So at the end, though, he does this huge laugh, and time rolls backwards, and he's just free. Because again, understanding that it's all you allows you to live freely. The point of the book, What Is I, is to bring you to a state of awareness. A lot of people are walking around like zombies. We just want you to be aware that you're a soul and a body. Now you can go do whatever you want to do. And I believe that when everybody does that, or if a fair amount of people do that, that's world change. That's human evolution. But when you're distracted by the TV, all the other stuff all day, you're not actually creating. You're just watching.
Yeah. You're just passively interacting instead of.
And we're not here to watch. We're here to do. And we're here to be, I guess, sure. On many esoteric levels, we can say that. But we're here to do. Yeah. This computer that we're talking on, somebody did that. Somebody created that. And I think that maybe people need more of a motivation to do things. again, but when you're distracted by work, you don't want to do anything. But yeah, we really are here to do things and create things. Yeah.
So where do you fall on the spectrum of, this is controversial, by the way,
Sure.
controversy alert. So there are a lot of people who say that psilocybin mushrooms and ayahuasca, kambo and bufo and San Pedro and the others, that they should be held in a ceremonial context and not this medical model. And there are other people who say, and all this festival stuff and celebratory social stuff. Where do you fall within?
That is a really good question. So particularly with ayahuasca, I haven't done it yet, but I've always said to my friends, if I'm gonna do ayahuasca, I want to go into the Peru forest. I want to be there. I want to experience it, like that. And I think that if you have the desire to do that, then you should. Now, to speak on recreational use of these things, it's hard to say. So of course I could say, yeah, you should, be in a sacred space. It should be a sacred thing, but that's just not where we're at. Yeah. So we're on the upswing, going up towards evolution and higher consciousness, but we're not there yet. So we can't expect everyone to go sit in the shrine and take this medicine. And, someone just wants to get it, kick it on the couch, and still have their grand experiences. Most of my most profound experiences on mushrooms was in my living room or in my car. Why in my car? Because I love the speakers. I like to play music. It surrounded me. Amazing. Of course, I've been in the forest. I've done all that, but it's not necessary. And we deem what is sacred and what is divine for us. You can set up you can be in your living room and have your plants and everything, and that can be a beautiful experience. Now, for the beings who are at the festivals, and yeah, of course, you might can say they are abusing it, but I'm telling you, seeds are being planted.
Yes.
Yeah, they might be at the festival one night doing it, and they might have a little left over. And then that Tuesday, they might say, oh, let me take this. And they sit in the living room, and then, so it's like we can't judge people for how they take this medicine. We just have to be happy that they're even doing it. Yeah. That's how I feel about it.
Absolutely. Well, I was like you. I first heard the call from grandmother ayahuasca in 2007 or 2008 at a trance dance event. But the shaman was describing how he took people into the jungle of Hawaii and you had to dig a hole for where you would shit and puke. And I was like, oh no, But 10 years later, I happened to be in Peru and was invited into a sacred ceremony in a beautiful protected space, and this lovely ayahuasquera led me in my first ceremony, and it was so profound. But I'm sure you know Dre Wright from the Ancestor Project.
Yes, I do. I think that's Charlotte's partner.
Exactly.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
you'll have to listen to the episode I did with him, because his first ayahuasca experience was not in the jungle of Peru with it. I'll let you watch it. But
wow. Okay.
It really opened my eyes to, yeah, you're right. You could end up in a barn with a bunch of folks that you wouldn't necessarily vibe with and still have a profound experience, because set and setting, of course, matters. Our setting, our intention matters.
Yeah.
But there is a moment when you finally do surrender, if you're at least safe enough to surrender, that the medicine is going to take you on a journey.
Yeah.
And it can be the most life-changing journey ever.
Yeah. And I would definitely say, like you said, set and setting and intention. I think they're definitely, I would say, we could say equally as important, but honestly, I lean towards intention, because if your intention is strong enough, you can almost be anywhere. And it depends on how the mushroom decides to reveal these things to you, but it will do it. It will do it. Before I gift this to anyone, I always ask them, why are you doing it? What is your intention? Because that is super important. If you know your intention, it will give you exactly what you need, and you can use it exactly as a healing modality. And, of course, you never waste time, but, you don't want to waste time. If you're here to heal, you're here to heal.
Exactly. Well, that's, that's why this show exists. It's the concept of using our awareness, our consciousness to evolve intentionally, rather than waiting for life to happen at us and then we adapt and evolve. It's like, no, let's use our consciousness and move forward. So I'm curious to know, just because I'm curious, do you have a favorite species? Is it cubensis? Is it?
Well, definitely within the cubensis species. That is a good question. I've never been asked that. So my favorite, I would say right now, is probably albino PE, or there's a strain called Jedi Mindfuck. But I will say that there's a very strange strain, and it's called Enigma. And I remember when I took this strain, I didn't fully know the definition of Enigma, so I had to literally Google it, and it says basically hard to understand.
Right.
And this was one of the most profound trips. I had 1 gram, but this was me on the floor, repetitively doing things, almost losing my mind, scared that I won't come back because my child is in another room. Will I be here? But simultaneously, I needed it. So why did I need it? For me, reality is getting very strange, as we can see it. I mean, it depends on what frequency you're on, but I'm seeing the strangeness in reality. Reality is not like how it was for me when I was maybe 20.
Like what?
Like reality, it was more predictable. Like, okay, I get this job, I do this, or, I do that and I do this, I go here, I make this money and it buys this. Like everything seemed, cut and dry.
Yeah.
And I feel like reality isn't so cut and dry anymore. And I think that my reality is getting stranger by the minute. And so for me to be able to have a mind-bending experience, it gets me prepared, if that makes sense. It's
prepared
for the strangeness of this reality and the decisions that I need to make within it. Everybody's game doesn't look the same. So when I saw Doctor Strange 2, like sometimes someone can see Doctor Strange 2 and say, oh, pretty good movie. The effects were great. Oh, they're so crazy. I saw Doctor Strange 2 and I'm like, they're trying to tell us that we can cross over into different universes. How do I do that? That's where I'm at with it. So the trips like the Enigma, it bends my mind because I'm back here, right? I'm here, I'm talking, I'm healthy. So all that let me know is like, wow, there's more going on with my brain. It's capable of other things. And if I can have a little more awareness in those uncomfortable brain states, who knows what kind of evolution I can go under. So that's why I bring up the Enigma strain, because it was crazy. I wouldn't suggest anyone to do it, but I just felt like I needed it. I'm just be honest. It was just too bizarre. It's when you're doing a strain and the name of it is hard to understand. I mean, come on.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because I've heard of the Jedi Mindfuck. I've heard of the white albino penis envy. Never heard of Enigma. I think my favorite is Liberty Cap. I think probably because
never heard of that. Why is it your favorite?
I think it has different names in different countries. I can't even tell you what the species is in Icelandic, but the Icelandic one that I had was my very first 3 gram and then the 5 gram. And it just, I think because it's friendly. I mean, I've gone completely blasted out of my mind, but never not like the Enigma experience where you're like, oh my God, am I going to come back?
Yeah.
For me, it's been purifying. It's been loving and supportive. Even, in most of my journeys, I'm crying my eyes out. Like I'm purging like all sorts of trauma. But anyway, so that's what I would say about that.
It kind of sounds like the Golden Teachers.
People have told me that, but I haven't done a proper journey with Golden Teacher. I think I've had some for microdosing.
Okay, so Golden Teachers and Liberty Cap are 2 different things then.
Yes, as far as I know.
Okay. Yeah, the Golden Teachers is one I love over here because it is supportive like that. It's a teacher. I feel like the albino penis envy is more spacey. It's more cosmic-y, if that makes sense. It kind of places you out there when it comes to how it's going to heal you. But I feel like with the Golden Teachers, it's very rooted and it's direct. It's like, this is why, fix it. I feel like the albino PE will take you on this cosmic little whirlwind just to tell you the same thing. But it's just a different experience. Yeah, and honestly, I'm still also new to strains and whatnot. So, and I think we all are. So it's like it's kind of tough right now to explain what they're doing. But I think as the years come, we'll have a more of a grip and a grasp on the exact things that each strain is doing and what it's trying to teach us on a basic level for that strain. Yeah.
And how do you feel about, is it Washington State or Oregon, who is saying that when they legalize it for therapeutic use, and you don't even have to have a serious diagnosis, they're limiting it to just one of the cubensis strains? Have you heard about that?
No. So is that what they're saying? So they're saying if you get approved for it, then and you have a particular ailment, they're going to assign one strain only?
Yes.
I mean, it's, well, first of all, these people, I don't think that they are even going to have half of the knowledge that someone who had just been regularly taking mushrooms for 3 years would have. They're coming very scientific, and that's just not how mushrooms work. I've had times where I felt like I really should do a golden teacher, didn't have it, and had another strain, and it did the job, because that's not how it works. Mushrooms are alive. I mean, everything is alive, but they seem more sentient. They seem like they really are working with you, and you're not just using it.
Right.
So when it comes to, oh, well, this strain will be you don't even know that. I don't even know that. Sometimes I any, mini, miny, moe it. and here it is. Like, people have wanted stuff from me sometimes, and I didn't have it, and they had to get something else, and it was perfect. So it's just that's silly to me. And all it does is remind us that Big Pharma is all about money and not about actual education and actual healing. That's all that's saying to me.
Well said. What's your process for integrating? It sounds like from your very early experiences, you just were already processing your life, your reactions. Do you, as you talk to people, do you offer them guidance on how to integrate their journey? Yes.
And the healing, well, me and my friends, we also offer that as well. Integration circles. My fiance did an integration circle for women as well. When it comes to integration, to me, and I no, so before I did mushrooms, I was very asleep. So I wasn't like ready to, change my life. I mean, in some ways, but I was very much a regular person. So integration looked like, for me, being honest, being vulnerable, which was a little tough. Integration looked like, for me, I remember one time I hopped on Facebook, and this is after, doing mushrooms and whatnot, and I typed, "I cried today." Now that is a powerful thing to do. Just shout out to all the men telling you right now, there's a note, please take this note. If you can go on social media, a place where everyone judges and you're so afraid of everyone's opinion, and you can go on there and say, "I cried today," I promise you it was one of the most liberating things I did in my life. Because there's so much involved with you typing something like that in your mind for you emotionally. I feel like integration, I would just say just being vulnerable. And then I remember one time the mushrooms showed me that, maybe you shouldn't be an asshole to your mom. So I called my mom up, healing conversations is what it looks like. Being honest and actually doing the work. If you do a trip and it says, hey, you and your mom don't have such a great relationship because you keep holding her to something that she did in the past. Okay, well, now after the shrooms have gone down, next day you go to your mom and say, "Hey, Mom, I forgive you. I forgive me and you for that. That was so long ago, and I just don't want it to be like that, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera." That's what it looks like. And I think that some people just aren't ready to integrate. Some people just want to laugh and giggle. That's okay too, I guess. But integration, it looks like you being honest about what you experience and being ready to change your life because of that experience.
I love it.
And you can, and just one thing I like doing it with friends, because also it's the accountability factor, so you can say this out loud and they can hold you to this, or they can, or comment on this, or give their opinion on this. And these are people that you trust. So it helps you to change a little more besides, outside of just doing it by yourself in your room,
Yeah. Well, that's definitely been the case for me, but usually I'm sharing like some magical vision of me changing the world or changing, my life. And when I share that with friends, thankfully I have a beautiful inner circle of people who get it. But for example, I sat in ceremony with ayahuasca and for my birthday, and coming out of the fourth ceremony, I saw these amazing visions. After having puked up my fear and my doubt, I saw this vision of what is possible for me in my life and my love and in business. And of course, when you come out of it, well, at least for me, when I came out of it, I was so excited. I couldn't wait to tell people, but I didn't want to tell everybody. So I only told like my inner circle, people who have sat with the medicine. And I just talked to one of the people yesterday, and I was like, did I sound crazy? Like, now that it's months later, do you think I'm nuts? Because I'm actually taking action on that vision. It's coming to fruition. And he was like, no, absolutely. Like, yes, a lot of people will see strange stuff and they say that they're going to do things. He's like, but you're like manifesting.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's important to go into these experiences and then come out. And I think that what Mushroom did also is like, it allows me to know that I can do anything.
Yes.
So it's like, if I go into an experience and it says, well, you should open this and do that and this, that, and the third, I didn't allow the fact that I'm from Baltimore and this is the mindset that people from Baltimore usually have get to me. You know, I feel like that's super important for me as well. I had to get that out of me. And excuse my language, but just being a regular nigga from Baltimore is it couldn't be me anymore. I had to expand, and that's why I moved to California. And I'm not shitting on Baltimore at all. I'm about to go back over there and shoot my film and do things like that. But the mushrooms definitely allowed me to see, like, I mean, if I'm sitting here saying that I'm God, right? I mean, and that's the thing. People will sit here and say that I'm God, we're all God. Well, do you know what that means? That means that you can make and create anything. There's a process you got to understand. There's time and space. There's the process of, alchemy, doing this and having that. Okay, I get that. But eventually, if it takes 1 year or 5 years or 10, you can create anything you want. And I think it's like, you gotta, on the mushroom or journey, you start to develop the spiritual ego also. And I think that spiritual ego can also kind of like paralyze you. People get caught up in the crystals and they get caught up in the hoorah of just being spiritual, but keep going, because the point is to remember that you are all. So you having that wild experience or those wild dreams of what you could do or what you're capable of on that ayahuasca journey, of course. and you should definitely be able to do that, because you are everything. And you can't sit here and say you're God and not act like one.
There it is. And what was shown to me is that when I asked the medicine to show me what blocks me in business, and I was shown a scene, and I was like, oh yeah, that is exactly what I'm afraid of. You're right. And then I was shown a second scene, and I was like, oh yeah, that's exactly what blocks me. You're right. I'm afraid of that happening. Yeah. And then a third scene. And then after all of these 3 scenes were shown to me, the question came up, that it doesn't have to be like that. Are you ready to see what's beyond that fear? Yeah. And I'm like, show me. And I saw an alternate version where that fearful outcome didn't happen, but a beautiful outcome happened. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And then the medicine said, are you ready to purge your fear? And I knew, okay, let me get my bucket. I know what you're talking about. Here it comes. But once I did purge, then I started to see these visions of this potential future. And for me, the difference was, what I heard was, there's fear and there's beyond. There's beyond fear. And when I go beyond fear, I tap into a different dimension. And what the medicine told me was, you come over into this dimension, whether it's with medicine or whether it's with holotropic breath work or just meditation. And when I get my downloads, I was shown I'm getting it from this other dimension. And I was told, stop comparing yourself to 3D world When we give you something, you hold on to the vision. Stop trying to compare. How's it going to work compared to this? And that's been the thing that has kind of kept me grounded. It's like, yes, we are divine source and we can manifest, but it comes from the beyond, and then we manifest it here.
Yeah, I love that. That's exactly what happens. I described it as like a hand that just kind of comes in and just does that and goes right back to the fifth dimension or whatever that is. That because the third dimension is what it is, and we all know it and understand it to be what it is. But for it to change, or for there to be some change here, there has to be some sort of alternative ideas. And it's like you're saying, that those alternative ideas come from beyond, something that we don't understand, but it bleeds into this, and it just, now we have a new reality. You know, I definitely pull from that. I feel like I have a back door to that, to be honest. I say sometimes I have a back door to source. And why? Because I feel that I actually gave my life to this. There was a point on my journey where I said, okay, you know, we all have our things. I wanted to be a psychologist. I wanted to play football, all of these things. But I said, all right, source, if you're telling me that I'm working for you, then that's what I'm doing. So from that moment on, that's what I decided to do. So even, you know, the mushrooms and the films, and I'm a photographer, all of this is under the premise that I'm here to assist with the evolution of consciousness, whatever that looks like. And I'm not here doing anything else. And I knew that was my journey, because I was like, you know, could I do something else? Because I'd be down to. I don't mind not having this heavy task on me, you know, but I couldn't. There's no way I could just leave this and just go like, I don't know, trim hedges, or, you know what I'm saying? with no further thing to evolve our species.
Yes.
That's where I'm at with it.
Wild. So talk to me a little bit about the photography, because I've seen these beautiful images that are available for purchase on your website. Yeah. And a lot of it's tied to travel and showing other parts of the world and other experiences, right?
Yeah, I think that one of the biggest things I wanted to highlight once I left Baltimore was the rest of the world. And I wanted the rest of the world to see that I was from Baltimore, and I wanted Baltimore to see that I was from Baltimore. We don't have people in the city who are sitting here saying, oh, I want to go to Bali, or I want to go to the Yucatan, or I want to go to, you know, these distant islands. I love taking pictures. It allows me to freeze frame God. It allows me to show people God in other places. I feel like the camera is like a time capsule. And I use it in that way. But just kind of go back to the people of color. Me and my friend actually are creating an idea right now where it's like basically like a Black Nat Geo, National Geographic.
Come on.
Sounds so simple, right? It's like, why didn't anybody do this before? but yeah, we're just going to gather some Black photographers, and we're going to gather the funding for it. We're going to send them in different locations, get our pictures and our stories, come back, and let's create a publication about this. But there aren't enough. There's actually a lot of Black people who travel. But I think traveling with the intention of feeling the essence of what we live on, that's not always there. Telling the stories of other places from our perspective. You know, a lot of white people go to these different countries, and honestly, they feel like their perspective is like, oh, I just want to learn what you guys are doing here so I can come back and basically sell your story, basically. But for me and for us, I feel like, especially for Black people in America, I feel like my intention was just so I can understand what's going on. I want people like me to see someone like you, because you look like us. And then what that would do is that would empower our people, and maybe we can do some grander things, and we can all be doing some grander things. I don't need your money. I want to show that the people of color all around the world, because when you travel, Black people, you see more people that look just like you, because we're Aboriginal all over this planet. So to be able to go around and see you everywhere, and not the pictures or the images on the news or what they want to show you, it changes your perspective. When I went to Bali, I burst my American bubble. That's what I would say. I was like, wow, so this is going on while America's going on. Right. It sounds so crazy, right? But that was my first time leaving the country. And I'm like, wow, so you guys do this and like, this is how you live. And wow, this is so crazy. And so, you know, I like taking pictures of that. I like showing people. I also like making short films of my travels. I think my most recent film, I went to Cozumel in Mexico. And I try to tell a story with the images. I try to tell a story with my shots. And I actually scored that as well. I played the piano. So I scored that film. Yeah. I scored the film. And yeah, I think that how crazy would it be? How dynamic is it to see this little guy from the hood traveling around the world and doing things that they say that he wouldn't normally do?
I love it. I love it. You know why? Because I have that experience when I did my first mushroom journey at 2.5 grams. It was only 2.5 grams, but in the midst of the trippiness and the music, it was so beautiful. And it just hit me like, little Dre from Aurora, Colorado, look at you now, on top of the world. I saw fairies while I was there. I was like, look at you. Like, who would have thought this little brown girl from the Midwest? And yeah, it just opened up my eyes to the beauty and the magic and the miracle that is my life.
It feels, and doesn't it feel so good? That statement of look at me, look at me over here doing my thing. And even just to speak on travel, like, because I was so open to travel, I read a book called The Serpent of Light, written by Drunvalo Melchizedek. And he's a guy, white guy over here. I love his work. And at the time on my spiritual journey, he seemed to be ahead of the game. He seemed to be in the leading edge of this information. And he talked about this distant island called Moorea, right next to Tahiti. Now, I've heard of Tahiti before just because like rap songs, but I've never heard of Moorea. And he talked about how like it's so beautiful and there's a part of the island where everybody's naked and they do rituals, just all of this crazy stuff. And so I remember saying like, I want to go there. And you got to think how wild that statement is, living in the inner cities of Baltimore. You want to go where? So I remember looking it up and like, wow, it actually exists. So this isn't a fairy tale. So that means that maybe some of the things in the stories he's telling about this island is also true. And 5-6 years later, I actually am able to go. I go to this island, right? And I take a hike. And at the top of the hill, there's a couple sitting up there. And I tell them about myself. And I say, hey, have you ever heard of Drunvalo Melchizedek? Because at this moment, I'm like, was he really here? He could have just been writing about it. You know, people write fiction stories and call it nonfiction all the time.
Right.
They were like, oh, Drunvalo? Oh, yeah, he used to come here all the time. I said, whoa. So that book I read, whoa, he really came here. He said, yeah, he would do rituals and he would meet with the medicine women and men of the island. And so just that was powerful for me to read the book. One, we need to be reading more, but read the book and saw this and had the brain to say, you know what, I can go there. Then actually bought the ticket, went there, and then got confirmation that the person who wrote the book is actually real and he wrote it and everything he's saying is true. And then, of course, I have my own magical experience there. The island is literally shaped like a heart.
Oh, wow.
In the middle of the South Pacific Ocean.
Wow.
And again, you know, the camera, the books, and the spirit of travel and just what mushrooms has done by just pulling veils down and let me know that I'm actually not just a little boy from Baltimore. I'm a cosmic being. I was just born in Maryland. That's it. So it flipped it. And now it's like, well, of course I'd be here. Of course I'd be doing this. But it makes for a great story to be from nothing and to become something. And isn't that everything? Everything is nothing becoming something.
Word. Oh, I love it. Well, we've got to get you and your fiance here to the south of France so that you can photograph and experience this attracts so many artists and painters and writers and so many cosmic beings. I think you would enjoy it.
How is the psychedelic space there?
There ain't no psychedelic space. France is not getting on that bandwagon anytime soon.
Okay. So you stick out like a sore thumb there.
Well, I don't tell people here that I do it.
Okay. So you like
they don't. The surrounding folks. No, the surrounding folks just think I'm, the cute American with a cute dog and a cute kid, and my fiance is aware, but yeah, the rest of the world here in France, they don't know. But
okay. Well, either way, I think I would love to visit over there anyway.
Yeah,
sounds like a beautiful space. And actually, what draw you to France, if you don't mind me asking? I'm sure you probably told the story before, but
yeah, destiny. I think my past life karma with this particular nation wasn't done. I also think that my soul drew me here to meet the love of my life. I can remember being 10 years old and hearing somebody speak French for the first time. It was like, what is that? I was like drawn. And you know how it is in America at that time, language wasn't offered until middle school. So 12 years old, I took French. And then when I got into 8th grade, I took French and Spanish all the way through. And I got to visit France for the first time as a teenager and then through my 20s. And I just always feel like this is home. Like something in my body, mind, and soul is just like home.
Wow. And when you know, you know.
Yeah, exactly. It's so cliche, but it is so true.
Yeah, and the mushrooms taught me that, for sure.
Awesome. Well, this has been such a joy to connect and talk. I can't wait to see you in person, to try some other things as time and space allows. Thank you for your willingness to have this conversation.
Yes, and thank you for creating this platform. Thank you for everything that you do. It is so important. People like me need to have our stories out there. So for you to like reach out to me or just create that engagement, it's a blessing. And I know that this conversation is a seed planter. So this will go and reach the masses how it will and reach who it needs to reach. And again, I'm just grateful. Thank you so much.
You're most welcome. So there you have it. Wow, what a conversation. What an exploration, a cosmic journey. I hope that you enjoyed this episode. If you did, please like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. You can also subscribe online and leave a review on your favorite podcast player. Please remember that the substances we've been talking about may be illegal in your state or in your country, and we are not advising or condoning the use or the sale of illegal substances. Until we meet again, my friend, please know this: you are a gift to the world. So share your presence with passion. Much love. Thank you for tuning in to the Conscious Evolution Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with a friend, subscribe, and leave us a review and rating on your favorite podcast player. This helps us get the content out to a larger audience. And to watch the video version of the podcast, visit the Pennington Media YouTube channel. Want more info on how psychedelics may improve your mental well-being, how to choose a retreat, or what to look for in a shaman? Get on the Psychedelic Curious email journal. The link is in the show notes and on my website, andreapennington.com. You can also sign up for my free masterclass series, where each month I take a deep dive into a topic in holistic healing, trauma recovery, self-love, resilience, and psychedelic-assisted therapy.